New York City's it's Saturday, and being that it's Saturday, it's our new weekly tradition during the basketball season. It's me and Bam. Let's talk basketball. So last night we suffered an ugly defeat, ugly but recognizable defeat at the hands of the Toronto Raptors. The word is that we can't beat under 500 teams. I'm going to be on the side of that being BS, but I'm going to bring on my boy Bam. You guys know him as Pass First, at Pass First on Twitter. I'm going to bring my boy Bam on to tell me exactly if that's true or not. Bam, talk to the people.
Well, first off, obviously they can beat teams under 500. They haven't for a few reasons, and I think we'll talk about them. But it was the same symptoms last night. Checking Twitter after the game, the number one thing I saw from net fans was complaints about the status of Kevin Durant, and while that certainly didn't help, we've lost games with him on the floor in the exact same way we lost last night and the way we lost last Sunday. So I don't necessarily blame it on the fact that Durant was out, even though we probably do win the game if he plays, the full game.
For me, look, I come in a whole different path at this. Would look at this is one, it's early, so half of me says it's early.
It's not that early.
It is for a team that just got thrown together.
Yeah.
Right. So part of me says it's early. They're gonna need time to gel. Everyone keeps pointing to this messianic savior that's coming at the buyout mark. But this is to me, this is stuff that's been happening with the Nets since Marks has took over. Like, we've been beat at the rim forever. We've been out rebounded forever. Like, none of this is new. These were the reasons why we lost before, but before, at least, we were middling at protecting the rim. We were middling at keeping people off the offensive boards. And now we're really bad at it, and it should come to no surprise to anyone. Like, do you think this is fixable?
Well, the roster has deficiencies that the coach is making worse. So that's a bad combination.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, right now, the team has what you would say are two, and I put in quotes, power forwards in Green and Durant. Guys that are at least tall enough to play the position somewhat competent. Obviously, Durant more so than Green. But what's happening is there's no backup center, or at least one that's playing, and the starting center is just shot. He's a 12-minute a night game. There's specific matchups, really, other than Embiid, and that's really all I can think of. There's only specific matchups where he's going to be able to throw his weight around, and he's going to help us on the plus side of things. So it's obviously a roster fault, but the one thing I always go back to with Marks is, in the beginning, it was about talent accumulation. He's now condensed his talent, right? So I can't fault him for trading Jared Allen for James Harden, because James Harden is arguably the best player on our team.
Right.
After I called him Darren Williams 2.0 just 2 weeks ago. So I'm not running from that. That was my emotion speaking, but whatever. So you have to do it. but now he has to get to the point of filling the roster out with guys that just bring defense, toughness, and rebounding.
Right.
And we don't have that, and we have to hope it comes. But I want to talk about Nash.
Nah,
You don't have to go there right away.
Don't get past this, right? Because we're gonna give Nash a good 15 minutes.
All right.
But let's start at the. I want to explain it from the mud. I want to explain it from the beginning, right? Since Sean Marks has gotten here, I think he had a philosophy in his head. I think he played for the Phoenix Suns. He played under D'Antoni for a short time, but he wasn't a part of those really, really good Suns teams. But he comes from that culture. He goes to San Antonio, and he coaches a team that played a lot of pace and space. That was when San Antonio was leading the league in 3-point shooting, et cetera, et cetera. And then he comes to the Nets, and we've put him on the pedestal that we've put him on because he had no picks, and he somehow got Karis LeVert, Dinwiddie, and Jared Allen. But all those years, those teams suffered, and you've heard it from me forever, because the organization does not believe in front court basketball. It doesn't believe in defense, right? Have we ever signed, a player that was specifically there to contend with the league, with the NBA as it is, with all of these gigantic dudes on the wings who are ball handlers? And, before we could say Kevin Durant was one, but now you're just looking at dudes that aren't even stretch bigs. They're just big wings, right? And
the only player that they've acquired like that is a theory, and that's Claxton.
Again, Claxton is proof of their theory, and a proof of their negligence at that position, which is they believe he's a center. They've played him at center, and that's a waste. I'm not saying this kid is going to be Kevin Durant, but this kid has guard skills to be 7 feet. They could have developed him as someone who could have played alongside of, what was Jared Allen, what is DeAndre Jordan now. You could have developed Nick Claxton into a player that would have given the Nets a sick advantage. And then on top of it,
we can't talk about his development yet because he hasn't played. We don't know what their plans are this year. I will say that
I can only go by what they've done,
right? But
and what they've done in the NBA. Whenever he's played in the NBA, and whenever he's played in the G League, he's played at the 5, which is a waste and which is a lack of vision.
Well, yes and no. He basically played last year out of necessity, right? He only played when DeAndre was out or Jared was out, so it was kind of natural for him to fill that role. I would say the way they played Reggie Perry is a lack of foresight. That kid should be modeling his game after someone like PJ Tucker. They should be trying to turn him into that, a stocky 4 that can shoot corner threes.
They misuse that kid.
Yeah.
I really think if he was on the Toronto Raptors, they would have just turned him into just a defensive stopper that's just there to just bang and get rebounds. And he would have a functional, good role on the team. They would play him at the 4. They'd put him next to some of the bigs that they have. And you could even take the names off of this, right? It's just you can't have – it doesn't have to be a power forward or a center. You just can't have someone who doesn't have any under-the-basket skills on the defensive end playing in your front court. They believe in it, and I'm willing to believe in it. If we win a championship, I'm gonna be the first one to. I'm gonna get T-shirts printed that say "small ball" on it, But
Look, I don't think they can win it as currently constituted, but I think most people know that. I mean, they have roster spots open. There's a couple of problems here that are hurting them. On top of the lack of size or I'm saying the lack of defense it's the rebounding and turnovers. Is there every game they're getting outshot by 20 to 25
bam,
shots, so it keeps bad teams in games.
you're right, and the reason why they're in games, you're seeing when the Nets play the bad teams. And yesterday was the best example of this. This was not a bad team we played. This was a team that's
Right.
unfortunately having to play in Tampa Bay. The players aren't
Right.
with their kids and their wives. It's just a weird situation for them. And but the 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 ball that like what bad teams do to the Nets is they use their youth and their size to basically go and score efficiently in the most efficient place to score, which is close to the basket.
Right.
Their guards take it to the basket because in the NBA, I needed to watch this again because I watched a full slate of games yesterday, and I was just paying attention to, because sometimes you get into you get blinders on and you just focus on what's happening with your team, and you're not looking at what's happening to the overall league. We're not far off of being the top team in the East because everyone's having some kind of trouble in this COVID world.
It's just a weird season.
It's definitely a weird season, but the thing we know from watching basketball all our lives is when it gets down to the nitty gritty, when it gets down to like winning basketball, it's gonna look like the games that we play against the young people, because against the best NBA teams, that their coaches are gonna tune up the defense to stop what we do, and we're gonna have to score some points ugly. We're gonna have to have more than this one dimension. Exactly, they're going to turn into shithouse games, and we don't have any of the players to do that. In the players' minds, because players believe what they've seen on the court. And they don't believe in getting old or that people are old because they don't think they're old or special or different. They just think, hey, I still could do it. He should be able to do it. DeAndre Jordan is finished, like finished. You know, he's big. He can still jump enough to dunk the ball and catch oops, but his speed, his lateral movement, his ability to read and react is done. And when you get him
quick twitch.
Exactly.
Quick twitch is done.
His fast twitch. He's an all fast twitch muscle player, and this is where it brings me back to Sean Marks. You are the best. You have the most scouts of any team in the NBA. They employ the most scouts. You mean to tell me, with a player that was playing across the bridge, where we all saw him with the Knicks, and we all saw him and said, you know what, that dude is done. That dude is finished. And we gave him $10 million a year.
Well, come on, man. Don't be obtuse. You know why that happened. And first off, he was much better last year.
He played in spurts. He had
fallen off last year from what he was, and it's been an even steeper decline this year.
But, dude, since the NBA was created, every year players above 30 get worse.
Yeah, man like that.
Exactly. Or guys who depend on all fast twitch muscles. KD is going to be good for the next 4 years, which is why I almost kind of say, you know what, let live and let live, and hopefully something great can happen for us to change it, because we'll have KD and he'll be pretty good for a while. Kyrie, I'm very scared of, because it could just take one little wrong thing to happen, and you know I worry about his mental makeup if he ever lost any of the things or a step or whatever it is that makes him special.
Here's the reality, though. I mean, as long as if they can get a 4 and a 5 in here that are competent NBA starters, they don't even have to be high end starters, but just like a passable starting player at those two positions. They can honestly, they can live without him. They'd still be capable of winning without him. If you had Joe, James, and Kevin with a competent starting caliber 4 and 5s,
Mm-hmm.
That's good enough. So,
Yeah,
and
no,
that's why I'm not that worried over